Good morning, Garden Spot Village. It is great to be back with you again this morning. You may recall that starting this month, we're switching Coffee and Conversation back to our regularly scheduled twice a month programming, but it's on the first and third Thursdays of the month. And so we are back with you again today and appreciate you joining with us. I'm Steve Lindsay, I'm the CEO. I'm joined today by Steve Muller, our Chief Operations Officer, and Dale Byler, our Chief Financial Officer. Christy often joins us, but she's away today. So, and frankly, can you imagine a more beautiful day to be away? I was driving in this morning, just amazed at the beauty of Lancaster County and feeling very blessed that we get to live in this incredible place. So, hope you're feeling the same, and certainly get a chance to get outside and enjoy some fresh air and a little bit of taste of fall as we go through the day ahead of us. So we do have a number of questions that have come in already, and we will answer those. First up, though, just a couple of announcements or an announcement. One of those is a response to questions that have come in over the last couple of months, several months, about Fulton Bank. Fulton Bank has been closed here since the beginning of COVID, and many of you have asked, when are they coming back? What are they going to do? What are their plans? We did meet with the Fulton Bank representatives a couple of days ago, and they did share with us that they do not intend on returning to Garden Spot Village. So they are going to close the office. They have a timeline to do that by the end of the year or the end of November. January, I'm sorry. And we'll be making some changes and meeting with all of you who are their regular customers. If you have safety deposit boxes, making arrangements for all of that. So we know that that is going to cause some disruption in the lives of many. We apologize for that. Believe me, we have encouraged them and supported them to stay over the last couple of years, and they shared that part of their decision was just kind of a general business model that they feel like everybody's gravitating more towards online banking, and there's just not as much need for in-person banking any longer. So we wanted to share that. I'm sure the Fulton Bank folks will be in touch with those of you who are customers, and will be having that conversation if they haven't already. Our understanding was they were going to have already started those discussions. But be aware of that. We are already in discussions. There may be another bank that is possibly interested in moving into that location. And so Dale has been in touch with them and has had some initial conversation. They're going to meet and discuss it and see if that might work into their plans, and then they'll get back to us. So as soon as we have any updates on any new developments there, we will absolutely keep you posted and let you know what the plans are going forward. But at this point, just be aware that Fulton Bank will be closing or not returning. Any other updates, announcements before we get rolling?
So one other quick one. Our folks here that do audiology services on campus, Resonance Audiology, it's Dr. Zoe Haran. They have a main office that's up on Route 23 on Main Street, and then they also have our office here on campus. And Dr. Haran, just wanted to make a note, she and I traded some messages earlier this week that she will only be seeing Garden Spot Village audiology patients here in this office, and all other community patients that she has, you will see up at the office on Main Street. And we're going to hear more from her at town meeting a few weeks from now. So that'll be on Monday the 19th. That afternoon, we'll have our upcoming town meeting for the month of October. And just want to make sure folks are aware that she's available for service here, and then we'll hear more of her details when she joins us.
Great. Thank you, Steve. So let's jump in with some questions. The first one actually came in last week after we had finished. This question came through. So apologize for not being here to take it, but we will get it this week. And it's someone who's calling in saying, I think I missed Coffee and Conversation today, but would you put this on for the next time? There are lots of us that like to walk through the Legacy Garden every day, and found there was a group of about 20 people that were making noise and did not have masks on. What are we supposed to do when we see that? And I think the answer to that would be kind of take a wide berth around them. You can certainly take note of who those folks are, and everybody's making their own decisions on, who's in their bubble and who they feel comfortable with being in their bubble. But if you're not comfortable with that, just be aware of that group and skirt around them. 6-foot clearance, masks, all those kind of things are the best way to avoid COVID-19. So thank you for being diligent about that. It's a challenging time in our larger society when you go places and people aren't as conscientious about infection prevention as maybe we are. We were just having that conversation this morning, talking about whether it's church life or going out to other locations and just seeing people, family gatherings, where people aren't as careful. And so it does cause us to make some difficult decisions. But you don't have to be the mask police. You don't have to chastise them. You can just kind of take a wide berth and move on your way. And here's one. Steve, I'm going to ask you to kind of address this. Someone who lived in VSA, Village Square Apartments, Tuesday night, this person says, I went frantically from room to room, checking for the source of a smell in the air. It seemed like quite a while later the alarm went off. Now it seemed that there was a problem in the attic. So later when the Katie announcement came through that it was a false alarm with an apology, it felt as if there was nothing false about my being contaminated with strange smelling air and being alarmed about what was going on. It seemed that there have been unusual number of problems. Your comments would be welcome.
Sure. So this has to do with an HVAC duct alarm that went off on Tuesday night. In all of our buildings, we have very sophisticated sprinkler systems that will monitor what's happening in the background. And in this case, it was a duct alarm that went off. It was a false alarm. So I don't know that what the individual that called in with this question, I don't know that the two things are related. They might be, but they very well might not be. We have primary or priority 1 alarms that are in all the corridors, and then secondary alarms or priority 2 alarms that are in apartments. So the smoke, if there's smoke or something in the air, it has to be at a concentration that's actually going to set off that smoke alarm. The ones that are in your apartments will call us, and then we'll respond if it's burnt toast or something like that, and we'll help you deal with that. If it's in a corridor, then it does call the fire company. And this duct alarm that went off on Tuesday did call the fire company. They came out as is appropriate. They sent their extra engines and things, and they did even evacuate some of the folks off of the 5th floor until we were able to identify that it was in fact a false alarm. But they always send their folks into that space. The firemen actually go into the space to inspect it, and once they can give the all clear, that was at about 10 of 8 on Tuesday night that we actually sent the Katie message out. And we did the public address all clear as well. So if you ever have concerns like that in the moment, that you smell something and you're not sure what it is, you can call. You don't have to chase it down. We always have folks here, 24/7, 365. We have somebody from our maintenance department that can help with anything like that. Call 3000 or the cell phone number 717-278-3000. And that phone number, any time of the day or night, gets you right through to the person that's on call, and they can help troubleshoot anything like that. I'm on the 2nd floor, I think I smell something that doesn't smell right, and that's a totally appropriate phone call that you may make, but you don't have to chase that down yourself. We have staff that would be more than capable of doing that.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things we know from experience when living in community, living in an apartment building or close to other people, sometimes there are unusual smells that go through. It could be somebody working on a craft project, it could be somebody cooking something unusual. But as Steve said, don't feel like you have to run frantically through the building checking those things out. The staff are available to assist with that. But certainly in this case, even the fire company came out and went through and gave it the all clear. Okay, the next question. It's been announced that the community church at Garden Spot Village will be allowed to have 25 persons attend a worship service beginning next Sunday. What about the 25% capacity? I thought that would be allowed. Is it because we have a skilled section and this has been totally closed off for the duration? I welcome your comments. Yeah, great question. There has been certainly a lot of guidance that seems to be contradictory, and we hear different numbers and different percentages and all those kind of things. The 25% capacity was related to restaurant use, and then the governor has consistently said over the past number of months that any gatherings of indoor gatherings of people needed to be limited to 25 people. 25% in the restaurants, about 25 people in other gatherings. That, as you know, the restaurant capacity went up to 50% this past week, and so that has changed. But the 25 persons for indoor gatherings has not changed. So what kind of complicates that a little bit, you can look at other churches and you see churches gathering, some with no precautions, no issues, no concerns, and kind of saying, well, we don't really care what the governor says about 25 people because that doesn't apply to churches. And that is true. The governor's orders do not apply to churches. And yet the leadership council of the community church made a decision that we wanted to honor that authority over us, and we wanted to recognize the safety of having 25 persons. So that's where we're going to start, and that's the approach that the leadership council has taken, and we certainly recognize and respect that and are thankful for their concern. As we have said in the past, it's out of an abundance of caution that we try to be conservative sometimes, recognizing that a conservative approach can save lives. And so that is the process there. So at this point, it's still 25 people for indoor gatherings, and we will continue to monitor that as time goes on. So here's someone who called in and said, I was wondering if that fire pit, I guess you call it, that sat on the front porch, is there a way that we could turn it on or off? We asked them to turn it on if we're having guests and would like some heat. Is there any outside heaters? I think I remember seeing some around before that you could be using this time of year for outside visitation, I think is the point here. So question is, if we wanted to gather for outside visits, which are the safest, and thank you for being aware of that, is there a way that we could get some heat out there on chilly days? And the fire pit is a great option. And Steve, do you want to talk about how we can get that turned on for folks?
Sure. So if you're interested in having that on at a particular time, you can talk with the folks at the front desk. We actually have a key and a lighter and things at the front desk there that's for that very purpose. Or you can always call through to Campus Services, and they could help you with that as well. So if you're not comfortable doing that or you just want to schedule it, call through to Scott Ruth or to Mark Kaufman, and I think the direct line there is 6029, gets you to Campus Services. So make that phone call through, and you can schedule it with them, or again, just ask at the front desk, because we have a control key that's there and the lighter that would be used to light it.
So it's very similar to lighting a gas grill. You kind of turn the gas on, then approach it with the lighter. It's not hard to do, but if you're not comfortable with that, absolutely, we can provide some assistance. Here's someone who is just wondering if any date has been set to begin the renovations or refurbishings of the apartment suites lobby. Thank you. We do not have a date yet for that. That is still in the court of the interior designer, and she is working on that. I think we had shared that a couple of weeks ago, and that at this point has not changed. So we will absolutely reach out to her and see how that progress is coming, and see if we can kind of give a little nudge. I know lots of folks are busy these days, and I'm sure that's the case with her as well, but we'll see if we can kind of keep that process moving. I know that's important to all of you. We did say from the beginning we didn't anticipate this would occur until sometime in the winter, and that's still the case, but we'll get you an update on the progress there. Here's someone in response to the Fulton Bank closing question, is the Mac machine going to stay? A great question, and the answer is no. Fulton Bank is going to pull their Mac machine out as they wrap up operations here. So again, we will explore alternatives. Dale has already started that process. We're hopeful we can find someone else, but Fulton Bank, and we expressed concern about that certainly and encourage them to consider alternatives, and that doesn't appear to be something that's a consideration for them. Another question about the ATM in the lobby, and so that's, yes, everyone's kind of thinking along the same lines. That's a service that we all use frequently, and it would be a shame to not have that, but that's the case at this point. So again, we'll continue to work and see if we can find alternatives. Here's someone who says they can't understand Steve Moeller. We will speak up and speak slowly, so thank you for that. Another question about the ATM. Yeah, I hear you. And absolutely, share those concerns. If you're a Fulton Bank customer, when they call, absolutely share those concerns with them. That's a good thing to do. Here's somebody who says, in reference to the false alarm on the second floor of VSA that night, we had not only had smoked in our apartment off, but our alarm went off in the apartment. Thanks. In reference to the wharf alarm, we not only had smoke in our apartment, but our apartment alarm went off. I'm saying I didn't happen is only the car door alarm. Sorry, I'm not, I think, and again, apologies to that caller, as it goes through the transcription process into writing, sometimes it gets a little bit garbled. I think somebody is saying that they may have had some smoke in their apartment that night, and their alarm went off in their apartment, and apologies if that caused others to be alarmed, or you smelled some of that.
And just as a follow-up to my couple of comments on that, when a primary alarm goes off, which the one on Tuesday night was a primary alarm, that will set off the alarm, the flashing light and the strobe and the horn in your apartment and in the corridor. So folks might have heard, because I made comments about the corridor alarm or the ones in your apartments, when a priority 1 alarm goes off, all of those will enunciate, or they will sound, so that you know that there's something happening in the building. You're not required to leave your apartment. If there's no smoke in your apartment or out in your corridor, you can just stay put. And that is our protocol. is to shelter in place when any of those things happen. Now, I understand that that alarm is going off in your apartment, so you may need to retreat to, a corner of the bedroom where there's less noise, or that kind of a thing. We always try and silence those as quickly as possible, even if the strobe is still flashing, because that strobe will end up flashing until we get the all clear from the fire company. So there's quite a lot of communication and interchange that we have with the fire chief and the firemen that come out. So they do that inspection, and we can't silence that whole thing and turn those strobes off until they've given us their all clear.
And again, Steve, I think you had shared a couple of weeks ago, if you're cooking something and you get a lot of smoke and it's in your apartment, feel free to open the balcony door or open some windows, but don't open the main corridor door and let the smoke evacuate into the corridor. That will cause the main alarm to go off and call the fire company directly. So if you know the source of that and it's just burnt toast or something you're frying on the stove, feel free to open doors, open exterior doors, patio doors, balcony doors, or windows, but not that interior hallway door.
And I'll take this next one. The question is about when fireplaces are going to be turned on. It's getting a little chilly, and it would be good to have them turned on. You could make that phone call to 6041. That takes you right to the maintenance desk, 6041, and we'll be able to help you with that. That would be some of our apartments, like in Village Square apartments, and some of our residences that are like in carriage homes and whatnot, would have a gas fireplace. So the maintenance folks would be able to walk you through that, whether it's something that you could do yourself to be able to turn that fireplace on, or if they would need to come help you with that. But 6041 gets you right to the maintenance department.
And Steve, I was actually thinking that question might be in reference to the fireplaces out in the public areas of the building. If that's the case, then there's a switch located right on each of those, kind of right beside the fireplace itself. You can feel free to turn that on anytime that you desire to have fire and heat. So whether it's outside the harvest table or on down in the parlor towards the apartment lobby, absolutely feel free to turn those on anytime that you would like to. The next one, the transcription is not available quite yet, so we will come back to that, and we'll jump over to some text messages here. So this one came in a little early and said they won't be here to send it in the morning. But as of the end of August, North Carolina was not on PA's list of states to quarantine after visiting. But you still have it on Garden Spot Village's list. Will you be updating that list or keeping it as is? Thank you for that. That is a good prompt. We absolutely should go back and update that list. And maybe what we will do, because those states keep changing frequently, the best thing to do, as we update that, we will provide the website for the state, because that's not our guidance, that's from the state of Pennsylvania. And again, there are certain states where there's an increase in COVID-19, and so the state of Pennsylvania is asking if you travel to those states, when you return, they're saying you need to self-quarantine for 2 weeks after returning to Pennsylvania. So we're just we tried to share that information previously and did that in a way that wasn't updated. So thank you for that. We will correct that. And thank you for being mindful of that. That's certainly an important consideration as we travel, and folks are traveling more and more. But we know that some states are more safe, some states are less safe, even some states where there's an outbreak. If you are going to a location where you're not interacting with other people and so forth, and it's maybe you and a spouse or you and your family are going to meet there, you can do that safely. You just need to be aware that making that decision means that when you return to Pennsylvania, you may have to self-quarantine. Here's someone with a two-part question, it looks like. In our enthusiasm for entertaining visitors in our apartments, please remember that for those of us who live in apartments, the hallways and elevators are part of our personal residence. At a minimum, please emphasize that all visitors must enter my bubble by way of the designated screening entrance at Garden Spot Village and the Welcome Center. I've seen visitors without screened badges entering the apartment building via other entrances. Thank you for that. Folks, absolutely, visitors should not be entering the building through any of the side entrances, through any of the separate apartment entrances. We are asking that they come directly in through the village square or down through the apartment lobby, get screened, get their temperature taken, answer those questions about symptoms. That actually helps us in a number of ways. It helps us, to know that at that point they don't appear to have any symptoms and they're thinking about COVID-19 and committing to the fact that they're not infectious at that point or certainly not symptomatic. But B, it helps us if something does happen from a contact tracing perspective. We oftentimes forget who we've been with and who's been around over 3, 4, 5 days ago. It's just frankly hard to remember for all of us, and so having that documented is a great way to help with that process should we need to use it. I would say the state of Pennsylvania has also come out with an app for your smartphone. It's a COVID-19 contact tracing app that if you activate it, it just alerts you if you've been in close contact with someone else who turned out to have COVID-19. So it doesn't track location, it doesn't identify where you are at any particular point in time, but it traces through Bluetooth technology your proximity to other people who may have COVID-19 or may find out later on that they've had COVID-19, and just gives you an alert to that fact. So that's another opportunity to use, but as this person points out, if you have visitors that are coming, I know it's convenient to sneak them in a side door. Please don't do that. You're placing your neighbors at risk. Here's somebody who asks, what is the date that the garden must be empty? Steve, do you know of that? I am not quite sure.
I don't know exactly what the question is referring to.
I think it would have to do with the vegetable gardens. There's a point in time where that all has to be cleared out.
Okay, yes.
That's my suspicion.
Right, so probably the resident vegetable garden and flower garden. I would check in with the sort of co-presidents of the resident garden there, that's Doug and Peggy Moister. They're residents and they oversee it, or with Campus Services. But if that probably is what it's in reference to, we do clean that all up and we mulch it before winter, and that would probably be within the month of October. So I would say in the next several weeks, you'll want to check in either directly with Campus Services or with Doug and Peggy Moister, and they'd be able to help you with some direction.
Okay, thank you. The next person just has a word of encouragement that we've heard from several people over the last couple of weeks, and that is as we go into the future and things return to some sense of normalcy, could we continue to have Coffee and Conversation televised in the way that we do? For those who have hearing impairments, it has proven to be a help for them as they have been able to sit at home and listen and participate in that way. But also, if you're not able to come out to the chapel for some reason, you can still participate by calling in or texting in questions, as we've been doing for the past 6 months. So that is a great consideration, and we will absolutely work to do that. And over this next period of time, even if we start, somebody had asked, could we bring in just 25 people for in-person? So we'll transition into that, but I do like the idea of continuing to have televised Coffee and Conversation for exactly the reasons that you pointed out. So we will work to continue that. Thank you. And we will jump back to the
So I'll take the one.
921, yeah.
Next question here, also regarding the VSA fire alarm that went off on Tuesday. And the comment is, there are no strobes inside the apartment. It's a different layout than it is in other apartment complex and apartment buildings. So we did not have strobes in the VSA because they don't exist. We did have them in the hall. The smell was quite noticeable. It was a hot oil type smell. It was noticeable on the 5th and 4th floors. The firemen were pumping around, maybe jumping, encouraging. These are transcripts from the voicemail, and it puts it into text for us. So that's why we sometimes struggle with exactly what the comment is. The firemen were encouraging people from the 5th floor to go down to the 4th floor, which is not the protocol as I understand it, but we appreciate the attention and the response to potential bad situations. So when it comes to firemen being on the premises, please do follow their direction. And that is our protocol. So the firemen follow what the fire chief says, and we also would follow what the fire chief says. From their safety determination in a space, the firemen would say this area is unsafe. Even if we have fire-safe doors on apartments and whatnot, when the firemen say we should evacuate X and Y, then we do follow their protocol. So they did have folks from the 5th floor on Tuesday night go down to the 4th floor, and that was appropriate to follow their direction. In lacking any of that direction, you are fine to stay put in your apartment. If you don't smell any smoke or see any fire, then you are in a safe place to shelter in place if you're in your apartment. As soon as the fire company's involved, if they are directing us to get folks from point A to point B or to get away from smoke or away from a fire, they would direct that, and we would also assist in that with our staff. So it is appropriate to follow what the firemen would say when they're on site.
And here's somebody who called in and asked about the next coffee and conversation on the 3rd Thursday of the month. Will it be open to residents to attend? And we're not sure about that yet. So let us have some conversation, and we will publicize. We need to put a whole process in place to make sure that we would only have 25 people located in the room. And so we would need to kind of work through that. So give us a little bit of opportunity to have some conversation and see if we can put something in place. So here's someone asking, what's being done about cottage residents that are having guests from out of state staying at a week of a time in their cottage? So we have had conversations with a number of people and are kind of working with them on individual situations so that we can make the best determination along with them. There are people who have extenuating circumstances, and there are very good reasons why we have approved guests for staying for a period of time. And I think you could assume that that has gone through social services, and they've worked through that process and gotten approval at this point. I know we've had a number of those. Sherilyn has been very involved in that process, helping to make good decisions and realizing that people have extenuating circumstances and needs and reasons for people to have some of those extended visits. So we do kind of work with folks on all those issues. If you have someone that needs to come and you have some of those extenuating circumstances, whether it's caregiving after you've been in the hospital or legal issues that need to be attended to, some billing kind of questions or all those kind of things that come up that just require you to have someone come and be with you for an extended period of time, please contact social services and have that conversation with them, and we'll work through that. So thank you. And I think I have a question about what's the total number of residents here at Garden Spot Village right now, including Sycamore Springs and so forth, and what will the population be when Sycamore Springs is completed? And one other question, how big is the service rep have to take care of all of Garden Spot Village activities? So Dale, the first question is, how many people are living at Garden Spot Village, including Sycamore Springs, right now?
Right now, it's right close to 1,000. When we get past it, I'm guessing we'll be around 1,050 to maybe 1,100 at the peak. And again, it depends on with units turning over. There's some fluctuation within that.
So keep in mind the 50 new homes at Sycamore Springs would result in a maximum of another 100 people. We were under 1,000, so we'll be topping out just over 1,000 as we come through this phase of construction. And then the second, Steve, have you been looking at the second part of this question here? I'm not sure quite how to interpret that. How big is the service rep have to take care of all of Garden Spot Village up activities?
Don't know.
Sorry, can't pick up on the transcription of that, so apologies. The next one says, I'm calling for I'm calling for the coded thing on TV. I live on the 5th floor of VSA, and almost nothing that is coming through on this. Comments about this thing on Tuesday does not sound like a guy even live here. I don't know where they're getting older information. Would nobody first come? First of all, came to my door and told me to get out of the apartment and go to the 4th floor, and there's so many other things that are not lining up. So again, it looks like, and apologies for transcription, it looks like this is a question about Tuesday night, and Steve, again, if a fireman comes to your door and knocks on your door and says, we recommend that you go down to the 4th floor, go ahead and follow that. Understand that they're out of an abundance of precaution, of caution, they're taking measures to identify if there is in fact an issue or a challenge in the attic where that smoke alarm went off. Of course, when they worked through all that, they found that that was not an issue in that smoke duct or in that duct work, and they were able to have everybody return. It does sound like it was a little bit complicated because there was a smell of hot oil that was kind of wafting through some of the hallways at the same time. I think an earlier caller called in and said, yep, that was me, sorry about that. So just understand that, those authorities come in, they're the experts on fire control, and so they went through the building out of an abundance of caution, asked people to go ahead and move down to the 4th floor, but ultimately determined that everything was safe and you were all good. As Steve said, maybe related to that smell of hot oil that someone was cooking on their stove, may not be. Sometimes with those sophisticated sensor systems, we do have challenges and issues that come up. Sometimes they go bad, sometimes they send false signals through, and that was apparently what happened on Tuesday night. At the end of the day, know that we have a system that triggers, it's very sensitive. We have a fire alarm or a fire company that responds very quickly and will provide all the guidance and assistance you need to stay as safe as possible. And we have a building that's designed to be as safe as possible. It's a lot of concrete plank. Even the studs in the walls are made of metal. They're not burnable. And so the building is designed to protect you. So we do occasionally have these situations that come up where there may be an odor or there may be a false alarm, and just kind of take that as assurance that it's more cautious than not. Here's somebody who called in and said, I have observed the last couple of times that if our company has been here, they are very professional, and I'm very proud to be part of a group that helped with them. I think they deserve an extra thanks for being so calm and patient with us. So I think that's responding, I think that's about the fire company, that when they've been here, they're very professional, and they are. I will say we have a phenomenal volunteer fire company. They're close by, they're very concerned about us, they turn out if there's any inkling of a problem, and they come in full force if there is an issue. And so we're blessed to have a good group, and that not only helps us in the case of emergencies, but financially throughout the year. Because we have such a good fire company, our insurance rates are a little bit lower than they would be otherwise. So thank you for that word of affirmation for the fire company. Here's someone who asked, do you know the COVID-19 numbers for New Holland at this point? If not, do you know the website where that information can be found? I don't know the numbers for New Holland or for our zip code, to be quite honest, off the top of my head. We've been watching and monitoring the county-wide numbers because those numbers give indication as to how frequently we need to provide testing in our skilled nursing area. And so those are the ones we've tended to monitor. You might remember a couple of weeks ago, they went up above 5% positivity rating, and then that has dropped down a little bit since then, under 5%. But I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think if you go on the Pennsylvania Department of Health COVID-19 website, they do have a map that takes you down to some of that granular information. So if you Google COVID-19 Pennsylvania Department of Health map, I think you can find your way through that. And if not, feel free to give me a call and we'll find it together. Okay, this person says, my question is, how many full-time and part-time staff are there at Garden Spot Village to take care of all of the stories and activities here at Garden Spot? I think this was related to the previous question that got a little bit garbled. So thank you for calling back in. How many full-time and part-time staff? Dale, do you have those numbers?
I don't have those numbers real handy.
Total numbers, though, you would.
Total number of employees, we're running close to 530, between 520 and 530. Again, full-time employees, I believe, are running somewhere around 270 to 280. Mm-hmm. So the balance are part-time and flex and filling in for different areas.
Yeah, good. And when Dale talks about flex, we have part-time employees that are kind of regularly scheduled, but only part-time, less than 40 hours or so during the week. But we also have some flex positions that are people who have signed on to be employees, but just pick up shifts when needed, kind of thing. So they don't anticipate or need to have a regular schedule, but they're willing to jump in and help out with some of those times where somebody calls off sick, or they need to take vacation, or we just have some odd shifts that come up. So those are people we greatly appreciate as well, because by having people who are willing to work those kind of schedules, we have not had to use any agency staffing in our healthcare areas ever. So agency staffing is really expensive. It's people who come in from some staffing agency who don't know the way we function, who don't know our protocols, and sometimes, frankly, you get into situations where you are forced to use those just to provide, the hands-on care that is needed. But because we have flex people, because we have others, we have been very blessed. Now, at the same time, I will say we have a number of open nursing assistant positions and LPN positions. If you know of somebody who has interest in working as a certified nursing assistant or an LPN, we are offering a sign-on bonus right now. So they can not only get a job in an organization where they can do amazing work and care for people in wonderful ways, but we can get them some extra cash. So be aware of that. Make sure if you have friends or family that are interested in that kind of work that you're referring them in. And we go to the banking. What about our checking accounts or CDs, et cetera? Please, it says, please be more interesting. So Dale, it's up to you. Be interesting here.
Oh boy, that's a tough one. CFOs are known for being dull, so I'm not sure that I can do the more interesting part, but if you have a checking account and you need CD information and things, the local branch is still open here in New Holland, and I know that the shuttle that runs to Yoder's can also be reserved to go to the bank as well to take care of those pieces of business. You can also call the New Holland branch and see what you can arrange with them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, they're hoping that you are willing and able to travel to the New Holland branch or are willing and able to go online with your banking. If that doesn't work for you, we're working on coming up with some alternatives as well. So here's somebody who texted in a message, Steve, and said about the fire alarm. When we shelter in place and announcements are made in the hall, such as all is clear, we can't make out the announcement through the closed apartment door. So do we keep the door shut and not hear the announcements, or do we go into the hall so we can hear the announcements? Can the announcements be made on Katie as soon as they come out through the hallway? And I think that's something we've worked on, and you've been working with the team on putting some new processes in place for just this question.
And that is how it played out on Tuesday. The public address system announcement that happened in the hallway was about 7:15, something like that. And literally within minutes, we were able to generate the Katie message that said the same thing. So if you would happen to miss it in the hallway, the hallway announcements are very helpful for staff and for others that might be responding, like the firemen and things. That gets the word out immediately to anybody that's in those public or those common spaces. And then the Katie message, which we haven't had the ability to do that consistently in the past, but we now have put the protocols in place that we're able to send that Katie message basically at the same time whenever we hear the all clear, we can send that right through to all those devices and everybody gets that in their apartment at the same time. So that's still a process that we're working on. It hasn't been perfected, but we've practiced it and we're working on that in the background to be sure that we're able to do that in the future.
And it did work on Tuesday night. Those went through nicely. So great consideration. Thank you for that question, and certainly something that Steve and Matt in Facility Services and others have been working on. So appreciate that. And I think we have come to the end of all of our questions. So that looks like it's a wrap for today, and thank you to those of you who shared with us questions, concerns, updates. We have a few things to take away that we have to continue to work on. We'll get that interior designer kind of cranking and see if we can keep that process on task for the apartment lobby, and update the information on self-quarantine. I thought I saw one just pop up. Oh, did you take it off already?
So a late-breaking question here. With the community open now, outside people are walking their dogs and are not picking up messes. Can there be a sign or something to remind them to police their dog? So it depends on what part of campus you're on. We do have signs on the west part of campus over near Sycamore Springs, and yet we try and keep that signage somewhat conservative. Please leash, curb, and clean up after your dog. We have those kinds of signs out there, but we don't have those on all of our walking areas or all of our sidewalks on campus. So if you're aware of somebody who is a frequent offender, that there's somebody every morning, they come through with that little brown dog and they always leave a mess behind, let us know that. I know that that's kind of tattling a little bit, but if it's an outside community person that's doing that, we can certainly have the conversation with them and just express to them it's private property, please clean up after your dog. And some of those more common spaces, Scott Ruth and I look at that consistently. Are there places where signage would be helpful, but we don't want to clog up all of our walking and our beautiful spaces and things just with signs, especially ones that say clean up the poop, because not everybody wants to walk around looking at signs about cleaning up after your dog. Duly noted, and thank you. If there are specific locations, though, or specific instances, let us know those details, and we have no problem following up with those folks.
And that person clarified they are talking about Sycamore Springs with the individuals with the dogs. So, yep, keep an eye open. If you can give us a good description of those folks, or call campus services or facility services when it's occurring, then we can certainly follow up. Okay, now I think we are actually done, and we will wrap up our, here comes another one. Just popped up, and we'll take a moment to look at that. Oh, thank you. Have people started moving into Meadowview? In fact, they have. This is a great way to wrap up the day. Thank you to whoever sent that in. I appreciate it. We did move folks from Laurelview this week, and so at this point, Laurelview is, as of yesterday afternoon, empty. Meadowview is occupied, and so the folks are over there. I stopped over yesterday afternoon and was just kind of chatting with some people, and everybody was settling in really nicely. In fact, one of the ladies was saying, I really didn't think I needed to live over here, and I resisted this. But, I woke up this morning. She had spent her first night there, and I just felt like I was on vacation in the nicest resort with all of my friends. And so that is exactly what we want it to be. There were folks sitting out on the porch in the comfy chairs, some folks soaking up some sun, going for a walk in the courtyard. Other people were in playing games or getting a snack in the kitchens. It was functioning exactly the way we had hoped it to. And folks were just adjusting real nicely to being over there. So thank you for that question. That was a big day, a big week for us. The folks out of Laurelview are now over there, and we have some other people from other locations and areas that are going to be moving in over the next couple of weeks. And so we definitely are excited to have that. At this point, I think all of the rooms are spoken for except for the 2 apartment room combinations that are designed for spouses. So if you are one of those spouses who's been telling us for years you want to stay close to your spouse, you still have an opportunity, and you can absolutely do that. And as I was talking, another person texted in and said the tour of Meadowview was awesome. It's a beautiful state-of-the-art building, and I would agree. It is everything we had hoped it would be. And even more importantly, the team of people working over there is just amazing. And they are passionate about what they do and the people they serve, and you could just see that joy yesterday. They're a little tired, I will tell you that, after having gone through all this and moved everybody and getting folks settled in. But it's kind of a happy tired. So thank you for that. That's a great note to end on. Somebody just asked how many beds are at Meadowview. There's 40 resident rooms, and then the 2 apartments adjoining that. So 38 out of the 40 are spoken for. I did have a question that came through, and this jogs my memory. Somebody had contacted me, sent me a note earlier or end of last week, and just saying, They were concerned because we had mentioned that there may be some people from the larger community moving in, and why would we let that happen? Why wouldn't we save these for Garden Spot residents? And so just to clarify that, Garden Spot residents always have first dibs and first choice on that. When we have available rooms, and here as of a week ago, we certainly did. We do look to extend that out into the larger community. The other thing about Meadowview is the needs don't arise quite as urgently as they do typically, like in skilled nursing, where somebody goes into the hospital and needs, a skilled nursing bed this afternoon or tomorrow. These are needs that kind of come and build up, and so we have an opportunity to plan for that and to be more successful in doing that. So we do need to keep it occupied. It was not an inexpensive building, and in order to make the numbers work, in order to not burden all of you with the expense of that, we do need to keep it full, and so that's our goal. It also lets us serve people well who have needs. Related to that, now that Laurel View is empty, we have a meeting with an architect who's coming in to looking at some potential transformation of that. Dale has been working with an accounting firm who's continuing to crunch some numbers on the next use of that phase of the building. So I know we've been talking about that for a while. We're trying to make the best decisions we can make, and decisions that will last us long into the future. And so we appreciate your patience with us as we work towards that decision process as well. Okay, for the somebody said, will you still do Coffee and Conversation on TV with call-in or texting? Yes, we will intend to do that for the foreseeable future. So thank you for that. And one last question. Anything about a particular resident? And of course, we wouldn't share information on a particular person. So you can certainly call your social worker if you have concerns about an individual. Please do that. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up our hour with you. Dale's looking antsy and has to run here, and so we will let him go. And just thank all of you for spending the last hour with us, giving us some questions, having some good conversation, and just having that opportunity to continue to talk and engage on these issues. So have a great day. Enjoy your afternoon. Get outside and enjoy some sunshine, and keep that mask on. Thank you.